lockout music. It's getting us pumped up here on this rainy Tuesday morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm Anna Palmer. I'm the CEO and one of the founders of Punchbowl News. Thank you so much for joining us in person. We got a packed crowd this morning on this rainy day, so I appreciate you making the effort to get out here. And thank you for all of you who are joining us on the live stream as well. For the summit, Investing in Small Business, a big thank you to Verizon for partnering with us on this event. I'm looking forward to interviewing House Republican Conference Chair Lisa McClain. I'll be talking with the Michigan Republican about news of the day. Nothing happening on the Hill today, right? Small business and much more. Afterward, I'm going to be joined on stage by Verizon CEO Hans Vestberg and Hall of Fame quarterback and managing partner of Liquid 2 Ventures, Joe Montana. Looking forward to that. And later this morning, my colleague Andrew Desiderio, senior congressional reporter at Punchbowl News, will be moderating a panel focused on small business. As always, you can find Punchbowl News on all social media platforms at Punchbowl News. We encourage you to share about this conversation, take some photos of the small businesses. Let's give them some love on social media. And now I'd love to welcome Vandana Venkatesh, Executive Vice President and Chief Legal Officer of Public Policy, Responsible Business, Legal and Security at Verizon, to share some welcome remarks. Thank you so much.
All right, so good morning, welcome on this very rainy day. I'm so thrilled and honored to kick this event off to champion small businesses. We have Congresswoman Lisa McClain, legendary NFL and small business owner Joe Montana, and our own Hans Vestberg. So thank you and welcome to all. I thought I would start by providing a little context for why we're here today. And I want to start by what you all know intuitively, and you do every day when you go get your cup of coffee, when you buy that plant at the local florist, when you get your hair cut. Those are small businesses. They're your neighbors. They're my friends. They're people I meet every day when I walk my dog. So it's important that we really celebrate them and champion them. But I want to provide some real context for that. Small businesses have contributed nearly half of GDP since 1990s. They create 2 out of 3 new jobs in the US daily, and they employ 46% of our US workforce. So we know this, and what this really underscores is that the small businesses are the backbone of our economy. So when you invest in small businesses, you invest in America, you create jobs, and you strengthen the communities in which we live. And here at Verizon, we have known that, and we have played in that space for a long time. So this is not something we started to do yesterday or even a few years back. We've been involved with small businesses for decades. And today I want to give you a sense of kind of how that works for us and where and how we've supported small businesses. And we do that really in 2 big ways. One is through our Small Business Digital Ready program, and you'll see more of that on that side. And the second is through our small business suppliers. Our Small Business Digital Ready program was designed to empower small businesses to thrive in the digital economy and to really harness the power of the digital world to succeed. And we know that's really important because right now, if you're a small business, what do you have to do? You have to be able to get your message out, reach your customers, be able to find your employees. All of that requires facility online and through the tools and systems that we have. So we provide a number of courses, including things as topical as AI digital marketing, workshops, one-on-one coaching, and we have done a tremendous amount and invested over $100 million in this program over the last few years. 13.5 million of that have been grants since 2021. Thank you. Our goal is to reach 1 million small businesses by 2030. And we've achieved about almost halfway there, 450,000 small businesses to date who've created jobs, built communities, really reached out to and fostered the kind of places we all want to live and work. Now, you don't have to take my word for it that this is a great program. We actually surveyed our users, and 67% of them tell us that they increased revenues or profitability as a result of this program. That's pretty amazing. The second way we support small businesses is through our supplier program. We're a large supplier, and we've included small businesses in our supply chain from the beginning. In DC alone, last year, we invested over $36 million with small business suppliers. There's 3,200 registered small businesses here in DC, and we hope to include more of them in our supply chain. Today, I am pleased to announce that we're doubling down on these efforts to launch a new supplier program called the Verizon Small Business Supplier Accelerator. As its name suggests, it's about putting the proverbial fuel in the gas tank, about acceleration, allowing small businesses to expand, to do things for our economy, and you'll hear more from our CEO, Hans Vestberg. Lastly, I just want to add that and acknowledge that we don't do this alone. We work with organizations big and small, such as local chambers of commerce, America Small Business Development Centers, and other local organizations to nurture and empower small businesses. And together, we're building the tools to help them succeed. So, small businesses, vital to the health of our economy, and by supporting them, we invest in the future of our nation and also in our hometowns, our friends, and our neighbors. Thank you for joining me today.
All right, well, let's get this program started and welcome Representative Lisa McClain to the stage. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. All right, well, we are going to get started. As I mentioned at the top, no shortage of things to talk about this morning. We are going to start with a few news of the day questions. Sure. Your title, House Republican Conference Chair, that is the messenger, right? You're kind of taking what are Republicans supposed to be saying. It's a big day today, 3 markups, reconciliation. What's the top headline that you're hoping comes out of today?
What I hope comes out of today is unity, and we will deliver for the American people, because if we don't deliver on this reconciliation package, y'all are gonna see the biggest tax increase that you've seen in a long time. And since we're on Small Business Week, small businesses are probably going to be hurt the absolute most, and we can't afford that right now. So I know it'll be a little messy, but at the end of the day, I'm an optimist by nature. I think we'll get there.
All right, well, let's talk about one of the messier provisions that is I think people are nervous about, right? Sure. Which is House Energy and Commerce and their reconciliation instructions related to Medicaid beneficiaries. This is one of the areas where you've seen a lot of Republicans a little nervous. You've seen Democrats kind of salivating that maybe they can use this as a campaign, the ad writes itself, they say, right? How worried are you about explaining to constituents that they are going to be losing benefits?
Not. And the ads don't write themselves, because the ads actually have to be true, and that's the issue. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a long answer to this, is the president's been clear, we've been clear, we're not cutting Medicaid for people who need it. I mean, I wish we would run that ad, but that ad's not going to sell, right? I'm trying not to get too political on this, but we're not cutting Medicaid. We're not. However, let me talk about this. If you are illegal, I guess we're cutting Medicaid for you. And why? Because we need those dollars to take care of legal Americans who actually need that program most. So I would ask, would you prefer to have your tax dollars go to an illegal MS-13 member, or would you prefer your tax dollars go to a pregnant mother? I'll share with you what Republicans and where Republicans would prefer to have those dollars spent, and that's to the people who need it most. We are talking about putting work requirements in there, and then here's the other thing that the Republicans are advocating for. We are getting rid of the waste, the fraud, and the abuse. So I guess if we're gonna cut, we are cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. I don't know why anyone would advocate to continue to have that waste, fraud, and abuse. I have no idea. You'd have to ask the other party on that. But again, you have to sell something. And that's what the other side is doing. So I'm excited about what we're doing with Medicaid, because with what the Republicans are doing in this reconciliation bill with Medicaid, we will actually ensure that that program is there for the people who need it most.
The Farm Bill is also getting marked up today, portion of the reconciliation, and part of that is dealing with SNAP and kind of rural areas. Michigan, as a state that has those programs, people are utilizing them. Any concerns there about cuts that are going to be made there?
Listen, we've been working on this for almost a year now.
Yeah.
Right? We've been really talking about it for a lot, but we've really been working on it for a year. And I can tell you, G.T. Thompson's done field hearings, and we've had listening sessions. So is there concerns? I'm going to say no, because I have faith and trust. But it's always you're always a little uneasy if we're gonna, have an honest conversation until we actually get through the markup, we actually see exactly what's happening. But I can share with you, the Farm Bill is one of the most important bills, I think, and that's why it is one of the last bills to get marked up, is because we have to make sure that we protect the people who need the programs most, excuse me, and we have to protect our farmers. And that's why the tax piece and the access to capital is so critical.
Because some moderate Republicans are concerned. Representative Bacon in Nebraska and others. I mean, I'm not just kind of raising this. There are some Republicans in your party that are concerned.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of the Republican Party, and this is going to sound odd, but just hear me through this. We are a little messy. And what I mean by that is Speaker Johnson and the leadership team has made a decision that we will have a bottom-up approach. And we will listen to all of the members. Very different than, say, some parties in the past who have a very dictatorial style in terms of this is the bills that we're going to do, and this is what is going to happen. And there's not a lot of bottom-up. It's a very top-down approach. When you have a bottom-up approach like we have, where we want each of our members, like the Don Bacons and like the people that myself are in ruby red districts, we all represent our district. That can be a little messy. But at the end of the day, we get to a better spot because we listen to everybody. It's not perfect, right? It's like business. We're celebrating Small Business Week, right? It's a deal. I get about 80% of what I want. You get about 80%. We still wish we got more. But we've made progress, and we're both in a better spot.
All right, we are quickly going to get to small business, but before I do, I have to put on your Michigan hat here.
Okay.
When it comes to 2026, should Bill Huizenga run for Senate, or are you happy with Mike Rogers?
That's a baited question, so very good. Very good. It's a very good question. Listen, I think we have two issues. One, we got to get this reconciliation bill done. I'm putting on my political hat, and then I'll give you the real answer. And then second is we have to keep the midterms. The midterms are extremely crucial, because if we can keep the midterms, in which I'm optimistic we can take this reconciliation bite, we can take another reconciliation bite, and we can take another reconciliation bite. So the midterms are extremely, extremely crucial. Both Bill and Mike are good candidates. Me personally, I want to keep Bill in the House, but that's a very selfish answer.
All right. I like it. We'll let you leave it there and stay friends with everybody in Michigan. Let's talk small business. Let's start kind of 100,000 feet, and then I want to talk more about your personal story.
Sure.
But 100,000 feet, how do you see the state of American small business right now?
I think it's in jeopardy if we don't get this reconciliation done. And I say that sincerely, because with the tax increase that they would get if we don't pass this reconciliation bill, to me that tax increase is more important than anything else that we have on the table. Now, I am biased. I do see the world through an economic lens. But you just gave the statistics earlier on how important small business is. Right. If we don't get this reconciliation done for small businesses, America will be in a whole lot of hurt.
So small business is a personal journey for you. Share a little bit about your family business and kind of how it's come to be.
Yeah, well, I worked 11 years for American Express with a very dear friend of mine. His name was John Hantz, and I won't get into too much of the story, but we were young, we were mavericks, we were #1 in the in American Express. We thought, we're going to go in, we got some new ideas, we're going to talk to the CEO and tell him kind of how things should be done. In retrospect, probably not the best way to do it, but I can remember he said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Thanks, great idea, but we're not going there. Well, we were like, you got to be kidding me, right? So we decided to quit and start our own business. So we left, and I think we're going to approach they will. I'm out of the business now because for ethics reasons. But when I left, after 28 years, we grew it from 0 to 700 people in about a $13 billion industry. So my 3 kids work there, my husband works there. It's kind of a near and dear to my heart.
True family business.
We're very blessed, very
What
blessed.
was the biggest lesson you've learned? Or what was your piece of advice for the small business owners here in the audience today?
Mr. Montana and I were talking about it earlier. It's relationships rule the world. Yeah. If you have a good product and you can market it, that's great. But you got to have some help along the way, and you've got to have relationships through all different sectors, through all different areas. Relationships rule the world.
I agree with that. All right, I want to talk about kind of small business through the lens. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce has said tariffs could really jeopardize a lot of small businesses. We've seen kind of over and over again, even some of the big businesses who use smaller retailers saying, if tariffs continue the way they are and we're in a trade war, this is going to hit America's hometowns hardest.
Yeah, and that could happen. The other side that could happen, which is what we're actually seeing happen, is countries coming to the table through the negotiation tool of the tariffs to actually get better deals for the American people. And that's actually what we're seeing happen. We're leveling the playing field. We're putting American companies first. And I'm going to bring it home to Michigan a little bit. Michigan ranks #3 behind California and New York, #3 for manufacturing jobs that have left our state. So the people in the state of Michigan see these tariffs as a positive thing because they see them through the tariffs through the lens of job creation. Mm-hmm. So tariffs can be used negatively, and I understand that, but they also can be used as a very good negotiation tool, which is exactly what we're seeing now.
Because we've seen some concern by employers in your state, car manufacturers in particular, that the parts go back and forth across Canada. I mean, are you hearing from your constituents on this?
Absolutely, and I'm hearing from both sides on the constituents. There's no question, on auto manufacturers like, whoa, hang on. But I also see and I find this funny, a little kid from Romeo being able to sit in the president's office and having a conversation with him, and he actually listens, which is, you got to have your facts and you got to have some courage to speak up, which sometimes is like, right? I feel like I'm in the principal's office, but he will listen to the concerns, and if you can bring the stories to life, he listens and then he goes back and he really does try to negotiate. And if there are unintended consequences, he tries to deal with them. But I will share with everybody, this tariff, it's a long-term game. It's not a short-term game. It's a long-term game to reset the playing field.
All right, let's talk. You've mentioned reconciliation is key to small businesses, that if it doesn't happen, it would be basically amount to a big tax increase. What are your key priorities when it comes to small businesses, in particular when it comes to reconciliation? Are there things that are kind of must-haves?
A couple things. Access to capital. I think that is huge for small business owners, and we have to figure out how to make access to capital for the small businesses available. We're trying to do that with Andy Barr's bill, Representative Barr's bill with the FAIR Act, right? That you can't just debank somebody because you don't like their reputation. We're trying to put a little bit more guardrails on that. The tax issue, obviously, and then the other issue that I think is really critical is all this regulation. Right? I believe in small business owners. I believe in people. I believe you all as small business owners know how to run your business better than the government. because you have to run it day in and day out. And I know from personal experience is sometimes what we legislate, the unintended consequences get us to the exact opposite. I can share with you right now in our business, we have more people in our compliance department than we have in our customer service department. I don't think that was really how this legislation was intended. So I think it's regulation. We got to pull some of those back and have a little bit more faith in people. I think the tax rate and access to capital are extremely important.
Another big issue and challenge for small businesses is kind of workforce, right?
Yeah.
In terms of training, in terms of, especially when you get to more rural areas,
Yeah.
trying to figure out, how can you attract people that want to be there? I'm from North Dakota, so you don't have to sell me on it. I grew up on a farm. But, how do you think government or the private sector can try to help encourage some of that workforce training when you think about artificial intelligence, you think about the next 10, 20 years of this economy?
Yeah, it's changing and it's moving and it's adapting. And I think the education system, whether it be at the high school, middle school level, or even at the secondary level, they haven't adapted as well and adjusted to the changing needs of the business. They need to get on board a heck of a lot quicker than they're doing, because they are providing a product that the businesses don't want to buy, right? That is the job of education, is to produce a product, the student, that the customer, the businesses want to employ. I think we can do that through incentives, right? Whether it's incenting more skilled trades, more access to computer science. Not everybody needs a 4-year degree. I'm not saying that that's bad, but we need computer science degrees. We need cybersecurity degrees. We need skilled trades. Those are the type of incentives that we can use the dollars for. And what's interesting is kind of coming out of COVID, we saw a lot of businesses, right? I mean, when there was a minute to slow down or maybe there was struggles, we really saw kind of a burgeoning of small businesses and entrepreneurship in this country that was pretty phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, that was great. Not that I'm happy COVID happened by any stretch of the imagination, but it did teach us some things, right? And I think you're spot on with that. A lot of people rethought their career paths, right? Maybe by force, but they rethought, hey, maybe I could be an entrepreneur. Thank God we live in the United States of America, where we believe in capitalism and we want to incentivize that, right? A lot of things came through COVID that we realized that, gee, maybe we should think about onshoring some pharmaceuticals and some very, chips and whatever it may be, as opposed to being so reliant on other countries. So you're right. It did teach us some good lessons. Now we need to see if we're going to be good stewards of those lessons and continue to foster those. So we are quickly running out of time, but before I let you go, I want to ask, what's your message? You have a lot of small business folks here. You have people from the private sector who are big companies that are looking to figure out how they can help incentivize or make sure that this kind of robust pipeline continues. What's your message to them, and what do you think members of Congress should be doing to help them out? One, I think we first need to say to all the business owners, big, medium, small, thank you. Because if we truly care about raising people out of poverty, if we truly care about our underprivileged communities and our communities in need and our people in need, it is your tax dollars. It is that fuel the economic programs that we have, and it's our economic systems that give us our social programs. Without your tax dollars, remember, what does the government produce? Nothing. What do you all produce? And what do? We tax you. We tax your employees. It's those tax dollars through our capitalistic economic systems that give us our social programs. So first and foremost, I want to say thank you. And what I think people need to understand, profit isn't a bad word. Profit is not a bad word. So I want to say to all the business owners, thank you, because without those profits and the taxes that you pay, we would not be able to have our social programs. So that's what I want to say first and foremost. All right, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much. Thank you. This was fun. I really appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Yeah, thanks. All right. Now we're going to have a video from Verizon.
When I started my business, I knew that I wanted to be the best sign company on the South Fork.
Being an entrepreneur is so isolating. So it's so helpful to know that there are other people who are struggling with the same issues.
When I first got the food truck ready to go, I felt like I was on top of the world.
The Verizon Small Business Digital Ready program helped me hone my advertising and marketing strategies.
In the SEO course, it taught me how to interview vendors that would help with my search engine optimization. Our phones are ringing more. I'm getting more emails through my website.
I've took so many courses. It has built my confidence 100%.
I was able to lower my marketing expenses by 34%, and that was after one session.
It's really changed the way that I've been able to grow my business and fast-tracked us to becoming the company that we are today.
To keep serving the same community that built my business for me is just amazing.
I'm just so grateful for the program giving me the tools not only to succeed, but to thrive.
All right. Now I'd like to welcome Verizon CEO Han Vestberg and Joe Montana to the stage for a fireside chat. Hello, sir. Thank you so much. Hans, good to see you again.
Seeing you again.
Here.
Mr. Montana, you're in the middle. No, you're the big guy here. We're just coming here to support you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. We don't often have a Hall of Famer on stage, so this is a little bit different than interviewing Congress people. But I'm going to start with Hans.
Even though he's a Hall of Famer, okay.
I know. We're going to get to him.
I really appreciate it of that.
I want to talk, though. You are here, obviously supporting and partnering with us on this event around small business. Talk about what Verizon is doing today when it comes to helping that ecosystem and really invest in small businesses.
I think you heard a little bit from Van and I saw here, but I think I would like to start in a little bit different place. I mean, think about it also that I feel that we are almost a small business owner as well. Okay, we're big, but we have some 8,000 stores in the country. And 93% of the US population has less than 30 minutes to get to Verizon store. We are in every community where we talk about now, where the barber shop is, where you can buy your pizza, and the small business owners. And that's why we know how important it will be in these communities, because, you know, that's important with all these small businesses in that community, that because you go there, you know each other. So we are in all those communities and see it. That's one reason. The other reason, of course, it's a lot of business we have with these. We are the preferred partner to small and medium business in the United States, both on wireless and broadband. I think we have a very generous market share. I'm not mentioning it. That has learned us that the small and medium businesses are not only customers, they're partners and they're suppliers to us. So for us, it's an ecosystem that we work with. And we heard about the small business Digital Ready program. And I see Aparna sitting here. Aparna is the head of our small and medium businesses, and of course creating a lot of this. But when we came out from COVID, remember what happened? If you were a small and medium business and you didn't have a digital front page, you couldn't order digitally, or because you weren't allowed to go into the store, so you couldn't buy. If you didn't have that, you actually shut down your small business. And that's what Aparna and all our teams saw during that time and said, we need a program to help them put up a website, how you do digital ordering, now it's AI, how do you communication, all of that, of course, together with communication tool that we provide as well. That's how important the small and medium business are to us in every day in the community. And then, of course, talking about how important they are for our being supplied to us. Many of them are suppliers locally. Some of them are on a larger scale on a daily business. And when we're here today, one of the things that we wanted to commit to and talk about is that the next 5 years, we're going to invest $5 billion in small businesses across the United States. Basically see that they are ready to be suppliers to us, and that's not easy. We are complicated, we're big, you know, we need rules and etc. So it's not only to see that we can buy from them, but also educate them how small businesses can buy from large corporations, not only Verizon. I wish we were the only supplier, but there are other suppliers as well that you can buy from, at least in different industries. So for us, it's more about seeing that how can you as a small business scale? How do you deal with large corporations? What is important for us when we procure? And I have my head of procurement here, I see he's nodding, because we're following rules. We are a large corporation. So I think that's why it's so important to talk about small business as we're doing here today. So I'm grateful to see many of my colleagues here for the small business here that have already done the digital ready. So that's the reason for us.
You know, I mean, so $5 billion with a B is a big investment. I want to just follow up quickly on that, and then Joe, I'm going to get you. But which is, you know, when you think about that, I think one of the things, we're a small business, right? 4.5 years old. We started with 40 people. We're 4 people. We're 40 today. You don't have all of the infrastructure. You know, you kind of talking and kind of pointing out some of the people and the help. It seems like Verizon is really committed to being able to give small businesses.
Yeah, it's totally game changer for many, because we're not only giving the tools, but we also do mentoring, right. We do peer-to-peer learning, because, you know, one small business on one side of the road can learn the other one, and they can flourish together. That type of things we're doing, but it's all boils down that you need to be in the communities, because business is done in communities. Our customers are in communities across the country, and that's why we need to be there. I mean, so it's so much more than just buying or being a partner, or they are being my customers. It's a whole ecosystem to see that they can grow and scale, because the toughest thing, you know, is get distribution to work with everything that is needed in the big world, the contacts. We heard Lisa talking about how important it is to have the contacts and all of that. That's how it starts, so you can scale your business. So it's an important piece of our work.
All right, Joe, everyone knows you for your amazing football career, leading the San Francisco 49ers to 4 Super Bowls in 9 years. But since then, tell everyone what you've been up to when it comes to the private sector and building a business.
First of all, thank you for having me here today. Appreciate being here. I did not bring the rain from San Francisco, but yeah, it's an area that I really hadn't thought about. When I first retired, I got involved with 2 of the guys I played with, and we leveraged our friendships that we made by living in the Valley, access into top-tier venture firms like Sequoia, Excel, Greylock, Andreessen Horowitz. And we eventually built that business, and I stepped away from it because we got into leveraged buyout, hedge, and real estate funds, and all we were doing was raising money, and I got tired of wearing knee pads and begging. So I stepped away. We were just under $1 billion under management, and I connected with an old friend of mine, a guy named Ron Conway. He's probably one of the top angel investors of all time in the Valley. So he started taking my son and I to this thing called Y Combinator, big incubator out in the Bay Area for startups. So we started investing here and there in companies, and then all of a sudden he said to me, "Why don't you just start a fund, and I'll help you. I'll be on the board. I'll invest, and I'll introduce you to LPs." And so off we went. My son had caught on to a startup in the meantime, and whose company went on a big run rate within a year, and then got bought by Twitter. So he ended up at Twitter for a little bit, but then he came back to the fund. But in the meantime, I started a fund. I started looking for partners, and the one thing I learned from Bill Walsh was how to put together a good team. With Nathaniel's company being sold to Twitter, my other 2 partners, one sold to Google in the mobile feedback space for business. And the other company he was sold to IBM, started IBM's cloud service, as it is today. So we just brought on another guy to help us invest beyond. We invest in seed stage and earlier companies. I'm always astounded by how many small businesses we have. Like, I think we're a little over 900 right now in our portfolio, some of which would love to meet Verizon.
We can probably arrange that.
We're creating relationships here, folks, you know.
New contacts, new friends.
And, but we just closed our 4th fund, and we brought on a guy from a company called Code 2 to help us invest beyond our series seed. We really like to get involved early And I think the team that I've assembled, I love them so much, believe it or not. You can't do this in every business, but I made everybody equal.
Wow.
So we all get paid the same, we all have the same carry, and we don't argue over anything.
That's pretty good. But tell me, I mean, so 900, you just said 900 kind of investments that you've done, a lot of them small businesses. Is there a theme? Is there something that when you looked at a small business that you're going to invest in that you say, did they have something there?
I think one of the things that relationships are big, and so you rely on some of the other seed funds. We exchange deal flow a lot. But really, when you invest as early as we do, we are basically investing in people. Yeah, a lot of them will have a product. Some is still in their mind. Some of them are actually physically out there operating. But in most cases, we're betting on people, and you have to really try to understand a couple things. One, about the person, what's really inside that person and makes the drive. And the second is if there are partners, what that relationship is, because a lot of reasons that seed stage companies fail is a lot of times the partners end up breaking up and the company ends up breaking up. But so we invest in people. We're pretty agnostic, so we invest because of everyone's backgrounds. We invest in all sectors. We didn't want to become sector focused because if, let's take crypto for example, if it has a bad year, your fund has a bad time. So we're pretty agnostic, and like I said, I have a good team, and they do a great job. I basically don't chase deals anymore. I'm more on the relationship side with our portfolio companies, trying to figure out what they need and help them move along.
Hans, you know, we talked a little bit about kind of relationships and some of the, not only kind of financial investment, but the ecosystem that Verizon is trying to kind of foster and be impactful. Can you talk about why more resources are important for helping these small businesses thrive?
Yeah, I think when it comes to small business, I mean, as you can hear from my accent, I'm not from here. I'm speaking Swedish, come from Sweden. I'm born in a very small city in Sweden, so I can resemble how important it is with all the small businesses and everything in a small city actually making the city. And I think that when you really want to make it, and I listen to Joe here, of course, you need support from a lot of people, I mean, that has infrastructure, because one of the biggest challenge is not to have a great product or being a great person. It's actually to get the infrastructure around it, so you can do the invoicing right. You can see that you do it timely. You pay your suppliers at the right time. You get the distribution of supply that you need. That becomes the bottleneck for many companies, and that's our strength. I mean, our distribution is enormous. I mean, being in basically every city or small town in the country, we have distribution. We have more than 140 million wireless connections in the country. We touch the majority of the US population every month. So that's our strength, that distribution we have built up, and that's what really small businesses need when they have a great idea. And then they need people around them, systems around them, and that's what we can do, because as I said in the beginning, it's very clear that they are our customers, but they're also our partners to develop products, because many times they have ideas. What type of products do I need as a small business? What type of technology do I need? So, and then ultimately, many of them are doing great products that is part of our system to deliver to our customers. So it's a total ecosystem that we have learned over the time to be very close to. And for us, it's great business. Don't forget that. We do it because we also do a lot of business with small businesses around the country. So all in all, it's an extremely important ecosystem. And as Vandana said, and we heard before, I mean, this is 40% of the GDP, and probably almost half of the workforce in the country working in small businesses. So if we don't see that this sort of ecosystem is working, we're not going to have great business. So for us, it's self-fulfilling as well. So it all hangs together. We rely on them, they rely on us, we rely on partners, and they rely on their partners.
So we are in Washington, D.C. As I was speaking with Representative McClain, a lot is happening here, reconciliation, otherwise. As a private company, you know, or you know, as a company, what do you look to Washington when it comes to conversations like this? What do you hope that they kind of hear and learn about from a conversation like today?
Joe. You looked at me?
I stay
gonna
out
ask
of
both of you.
politics altogether. I learned early from just always want to be on the winning side.
Okay. Let's see if
I'll leave that one to you, Hans. There
I'm
you
not sure
go.
I'm going to trump that one. I think what we want Washington to hear is, of course, the importance of seeing that the businesses that are scaling have the means and the support to do it. We always talk about light touch to see that it's not too complex, because ultimately if there's too much complexity and bureaucracy around small companies, it's hard for them to scale. I think that doesn't matter who is ruling the country. It's the same thing I would say. And secondly, it's also important to see that it historically been really good to keep the sort of the support for and incentives for small business to grow, which means that financial will be important for them.
All right, Joe, we'll stay out of politics for now. You've been doing this a while. You talked about kind of the investing, the relationship management. We have a lot of small business owners here, myself included. What advice do you have for kind of your time in athletics or in the private sector when it comes to starting a business or growing a business?
I think the biggest things, you've heard everyone talk about, it's relationships with that. It's that old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And it's the same thing for us as we're still trying to build our business. It's about the relationships that we have with other venture seed stage funds, that we're able to not only share deals, but share understandings of the new technologies that are coming up, like AI, although we were investing in AI way back in 2018. So we got in very early. But I think the biggest part is that you gotta really have to find a way. Part of the reason people come to us is we do have a lot of portfolio companies, and that's where they see our biggest asset is we have a lot of their customers already in our hands. And finding ways to build that customer base is about relationships. And so the sooner you can start to build that, I think the better off you are and your company will be. And you'll see the benefits of that come pretty quickly. She mentioned profits earlier, but how about just revenue?
That's an early stage investor right there.
That's the difference between you and me.
Yeah, we'll take revenue.
All right, we are quickly running out of time, but Hans, I'll let you have the last word here. You kind of touched on this a little bit, but what's the takeaway here from the conversation and Verizon's commitment to small business?
No, I think the takeaway is a lot what Joe is saying as well. Small businesses are important. To nurture and support that is not sort of only self-fulfilling for the company as doing it. It's actually an ecosystem you're part of. And I think that ultimately my advice to a lot of small businesses, as Joe said, the product is the key. I mean, you need to have a great product, and we all know it's going to be setbacks. It's a large corporation as well. You come out with a lot of products. Not all of them hit, But, you need to believe in what you're doing. Ultimately, it's to delight your customer that you have segmented for, and then it's going to be some setbacks. And the ones that have sustainability, and that's going to win. So I think that for me, that's the consensus of all of that. And I think large corporations like us need to take a responsibility for the ecosystem. And I think we're doing it, and we'll continue to do so, because this is important for the US. Verizon is important for the US, and the combination is making this even strong, this country even stronger.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Really appreciate it.
All right, good morning, everyone. We'll try to follow that one as best we can. My name is Andrew Desiderio. I'm senior congressional reporter here at Punchbowl News. Thank you for being with us this morning for this panel on small business. I will go from my left to right here in introducing our panelists. First, to my immediate right, we have Jim Gowan, who has the longest title I've ever seen. Senior Vice President of Global Sourcing and Supply Chain and Chief Sustainability Officer at Verizon. Diane Bevan, President and CEO of the Idaho Technology Council. Tom Demarest, CEO of Oaken Process. And Michael O'Reilly, former commissioner at the FCC and president of MP O'Reilly Consulting. All right, let's dive in. Thank you guys so much for being here. Jim, I want to get to you first about this new $5 billion investment. Can you talk a little bit about how small businesses can benefit from it? And can you also talk about how a large corporation like Verizon can have a role in local communities? Because I think that's what a lot of people are wondering about how this is all going to work.
Yeah, so awesome event so far. Really excited to be here. I thought the best comment that was made earlier was Joe Montana said he had Bill Walsh. For any of you who are non-football fans, Bill Walsh was Joe's coach during all those 4 Super Bowls. Well, we have Hans Vestberg, and you just heard him right here. It's the same, similar situation. And I draw that parallel on the fly because it's about coaching, it's about teams, and it's about everyone playing together. It's the exact same parallel for how we're looking at small businesses. Starting with the senator and then straight through the last conversation, we talked about COVID. The world changed in COVID, the supply chain. I'm an ops guy by day, so I run our global supply chain. I'm worried about enough phones in the stores, those 6,000 that Hans talked about, all the way through the 5G towers you see through this city and all around. And on our Fios side, which hopefully some of you here are customers of us, it's all about Fios. We're in and out of our customers' homes every single day, literally helping people where they work, live, and play. So then you turn it to what we're doing here. Resiliency is what we're about. Our network has to be resilient, has to be up 99.999% of the time. Why? First responders, 911. That's who we are, that's who we deliver for. How do we do that? Then you start talking about who our customers are, who our suppliers are. How do we work day in, day out? We have a great example with Tom up here and Oaken, one of our partners here. They're based in Texas. They are a small business. They've been with us for a while. They help support our customers. But then you take it to the communities where we are. And Hans talked about pizza parlors and places like that. We have 2 of our small business digital ready suppliers over here with Brian and Victoria from Hortiki and Otter Coffee. Please stop by and see them. But it's about bringing the entire ecosystem together to create that resilient, sustainable supply chain. That's who we are. That's what we're most excited about. And if you haven't seen it already, take out that card, scan that QR code, go to that site, and tell your small business friends, family members about it, because that's what's going to change this ecosystem.
Tom, how are small businesses like yours driving innovation at scale, and how can you sort of leverage some of those partnerships that are needed to help achieve that?
Yeah, certainly. I think from the standpoint of what we've done and what Verizon has really helped us on, 1, digital ready program, but 2, also being a supplier, right? We've seen firsthand what impacts you can have on the community. So we're in southern San Antonio, the former Brooks Air Force Base. It was a lower socioeconomic environment, somewhat an area of blight. We came in 2019 with 4 employees, very similar to Punchbowl here. We now have just under 300 employees, and we have really changed how the community is and really brought a lot of value and economics into the community. So without the partnership of Verizon, not sure we would have been there. They're our second customer, and it's made a really tremendous impact on what we have. I think the concept of relationships and the whole thing of it's not a zero-sum game, it's rising tides float many boats. And what we found with Verizon as a partner is that's what makes a world of difference, right? So for us, it's the digital tools that Verizon has from the standpoint of a supplier, but also what they're able to do as a partner for us and to ensure that we have success in helping us grow and being the best that we can be.
Diane, when we talk about small businesses being the driver of local economies and local communities, that is often much more difficult in rural areas. State like yours, obviously, vast majority of it is rural. What is your advice to policymakers, to large corporations on how to help address some of those challenges that come with being in more rural and isolated parts of the country, of which there are many?
Thank you. You know, and you're right. Idaho is an 85% rural state. You know, we came on really quickly with the Small Business Digital Ready program when it was first launched because, as you know, in the pandemic, Main Street America, if products were only going out the front door and not, you know, shipped out, it was a problem. And so, you know, it's amazing. We've had, I think, probably between 400 and 500 entrepreneurs go through the program. And you think that, and broadband is still very much an issue in a rural state. So certainly that's something that we advocate a lot for in policy. However, I think one of the biggest barriers for entrepreneurs is confidence. You know, you talk about the coach and the team aspect, and you have an entrepreneur in a very small rural town, they don't have that team around them. And even though you don't need to be a CPA, you do have a due diligence to know your numbers. So an opportunity to jump into that program. And I will tell you, entrepreneurs are not going to trainings between 8 and 5. They're getting on your platform at 1 in the morning, 11 o'clock at night, you know, trying to have that knowledge base that they need to be successful. And so I think one of the things that we have found with the program too is just that it gives so much confidence to an entrepreneur, especially the ones in the rural areas.
Michael, you worked on Capitol Hill for a long time. You served at the FCC. Heard Diane briefly mention broadband. How does broadband and spectrum policy fit into this conversation?
Well, absolutely. Look, I really appreciate the Congresswoman's comments earlier in terms of the value of public policy and how that influences small business development and lets that environment grow. It's a stable, a low tax environment, low regulatory body restrictions and obligations that they put on companies, and having that and let the businesses focus on providing the services and goods that they would like to do rather than focus on the government side of the equation. And so there are things that the government can do. One of the biggest things, as not only as someone who fought for small business, but someone who runs a one-man small business today and now pays taxes far in exceeding any salary I ever made on Capitol Hill. But in that environment, what's important is connectivity and its connectedness. If it's the ability to reach the customer or the other providers and suppliers, it's the ability to talk about advertising and deal with communications, and all the different facets of business requires connectivity. And to have connectivity in some form or fashion means you need the infrastructure. You need some type of communication between the company and the outside world. Today, that is broadband in many different facets. It can be wired, fiber-based, and you need to make sure you can get deployment. You asked, how can you make it deployment issues? How do we make deployment quicker? How do we get government out of the way to make sure we can actually lay the lines that need to serve? On the wireless side, so important and so valuable for serving so many companies today. If it is making sure that you have spectrum, so you have the resources to be able to provide the network, and then also the ability to put towers where it's necessary and kind of connect between the different technologies and actually serve the end consumer, the small businesses that drive the growth of our nation.
Spectrum, obviously something that Congress is considering right now as part of the reconciliation
hours.
package. I know you're very wired into all that conversation happening right now on the Hill. Businesses, small and large, want and need stability. They want and need certainty. Has Congress given enough of that to them over the years when it comes to spectrum policy and broadband expansion?
Well, we're going to find out. The last couple of years have been a tough environment. The auction authority, the FCC, expired. Finding the additional spectrum bands has been kind of lagging since, and I don't want to tie it to when I left the commission, but that's about the right time of when things kind of went downhill. And things are on the upswing. I think, one form or fashion, we're going to see some new spectrum policy develop that hopefully will provide new bands for all types of wireless users.
Diane, what are you seeing as some of the biggest challenges for small businesses in terms of adapting to new technologies and finding ways to facilitate adapting to those new technologies?
Yeah, we're certainly seeing that with all of the emerging technologies in AI as well, right? I think one of the great things about digital technology is it really kind of levels the playing field a little bit. You have people jumping into entrepreneurship that can utilize automation and tools to get a lot more work done and focus on the things that they want to do the best. But I think that I love that you're talking a lot about policy as well, because we see with entrepreneurship, it's growing so fast. We have so many tech startups right now that are emerging, but I think that outside of the early adopters to technology, it's really truly about just feeling like getting your hands on it. And, when we talk about Verizon, and like you were talking about how close they can get to a Verizon store,
Right.
is that what we have found in working in rural areas is how many entrepreneurs run their entire business on their phone.
Right.
They're not running them on laptops even, especially in our underserved communities. There's such a high percentage that don't have technology tools, but they have a smartphone, and that allows them to run their business.
Jim, you guys have these supplier relationships like you do with Tom's company, for example. How could those existing relationships benefit from this new initiative you guys are announcing here today?
Yeah, and so now we're getting real. I saw that the boss just left, so I can actually start saying what's going on. All right. So how do you spend $5 billion in 5 years and you really invest in the community and you build a resilient supply chain? Well, you start by no more business, Tom. No. You start by focusing on what are the challenges that small businesses have coming and dealing with Verizon. We're a behemoth. Let's be honest. I mean, Hans was nice. We're a big company. We're a big company. So transparency, access to the right people. Who do you talk to? How do you even get involved? How do you deal with the insurance requirements? All the different challenges that come. So we're going about this, again, I said I'm an operations person. We're going about it tactically and operationally. We're going to go into the communities. We're going to come with seminars. We're going to bring my sourcing team, my procurement team. We're going to bring two of our heads, Guy Young and Marissa McGinnis. We're going to start in places like New York and West Virginia. And we're going to hold those conversations where SBDR is awesome and it's bringing and awarding opportunities and bringing technology and teaching. We're going to go to the other side and say, this is how you do business and this is how we grow companies together. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to be totally selfish again. It's about making Verizon's supply chain more resilient, investing in our customers and the places where we work, play, and live, so that at the end of the day, we don't have to worry about whether, there's a storm, whether there's a natural event, whether there's whatever is going on. We have people local there that we can call, we can depend on, and they're going to work with us day in, day out. That's got me really, really excited about this, how we make this program real.
Tom, how do companies like yours take advantage of that?
Well, I think one, companies that do really Americans for Americans or Americans for America, right? So I think, Verizon has demonstrated that, for us. And obviously, as we move forward, we just want to make sure, one, that we're the best possible partner as we move along the path to make sure we're doing the right things. It's very much a delivery standpoint, like Hans said earlier, right? If you have an opportunity, you got to take advantage of that opportunity. If something goes wrong, it's how you respond and correct what went wrong. And so for us, when we look at these things here, for us, it's not everything's going to go right in a small business. Very little goes right in a small business. But for us, it's really how you respond to it and how you move forward. And again, we're blessed to be partners with Verizon, and I think it's an amazing opportunity. And again, they say they're tough to deal with, but they're really not. They're really open and honest. And like I said in the first part, it's not a zero-sum game with Verizon. It's not somebody wins and somebody loses. And that's the greatest thing that you want in a partner or relationship, is how everybody can win in the overall end.
Michael, something Diane mentioned was really interesting. Just the fact that so many small businesses are run basically entirely on smartphones, right? I mean, like, people aren't sitting at their desks anymore on computers or laptops. What is your advice to policymakers on how to address that reality? I mean, hearing it said just now by Diane, it sounds obvious to those of us, but oftentimes members of Congress are not very well aware of the realities of building and maintaining a small business in today's day and age. So what is your advice to policymakers on that?
Well, I happen to be blessed to work for a number of policymakers who would go out into the field, would have those conversations, and sit down with Tom and say, what do you need? What's a matter? But your point, technology has certainly changed over the last many years, and new technology has shrunken the ability to be on the move and be mobile. I applaud Verizon and its work for recognizing small business and really reaching out. And so if I'm a member of Congress or I'm giving advice to them, It is to talk to companies that are having those relationships, to go back and talk to the small companies themselves and see what does provide that stable environment, the low tax universe, the low regulatory framework that allows the culture and the environment for small businesses to succeed. And technology-wise, it is, it's having all of the above. It's all the different features and functions that Verizon brings to the table, the platform they provide to small businesses that allow them to succeed and let them focus on their customers and their communications.
Tom, can you offer a perspective on that, just again, in terms of how Congress might be addressing this and how it could impact companies like yours?
Yeah, again, I think what Congresswoman spoke about McClain earlier is really access to capital. Some of these policies that would be really enabling and helping the small business, because again, for us, we're kind of fighting for every inch that we can along the path. Capital is very tough for us to get to. Taxes is another thing for us, and so I think having some of those things, move the way and move aside to help the business grow, it will only enable more and more growth along the way. I'm a firm believer in kind of less regulation on things and less things holding it down in order to, to help everybody grow along the path. So again, I know this is going to be a very, difficult time across both sides of the aisle, but it's really how we enable business growth. Again, it's 50% of GDP, and so it's how do we make that grow beyond that.
Diane, same question to you, because I do want to tie this all back to sort of what Congress is doing right now and trying to make actual progress and advancements on these big policy questions.
Yeah, I'll be meeting with our delegation this afternoon, actually, while I'm in town, and I think that we have to, when we think about, the Section 174, right, the tax R&D part of that write-up that they're working on, and we think about it does impact big, but it really impacts those large companies that are pre-revenue, that are still in research and development. And so we have to really think about how can we make all these small businesses be able to thrive before they even are in a revenue stage, right? Especially with the emerging technology. There's a lot of R&D companies that are looking at Congress right now to get that across the finish line.
Jim, final thoughts?
I'm not answering anything on policy. We have a young lady by the name of Kathy Grillo-Hill. She'll answer any question for Verizon policy. What I'll say is, first off, thank you. Thank you to the fellow panelists. Thank you yourselves, to Punch Bowl. It's been an awesome, awesome event. I avoid the city, to be honest with you. I'm much more comfortable in a distribution center. But what I love about Verizon in my 29 and a half years, 30 years in August, is we do things, we make commitments, and it's real. This commitment is real. But it's not going to be done just by Verizon. It's going to take small businesses to come to us. We're going to work with you. And it's about investing in our customers. I've said it before. It's where we work, live, and play. It's those folks that come in and out of your house every day. It's those folks who are up there on New Year's Eve hanging a cell tower to make sure we have connections for the next day. So that's who Verizon is. It's in our DNA. Hopefully you heard that from Vandana, from Hans, even from Joe and the way he talked about team. This small business commitment is real. It's not going to be easy. I wish it was, but it's going to take a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. It's going to take technology. It's going to take service providers, and it will take policy, which I won't deal with the third. Thank you very much.
By the way, you brought up an analogy to Bill Walsh, obviously, right? And you said Hans is like your Bill Walsh. Who's Joe Montana in that analogy?
Who's Joe Montana? It's not me. My 91-year-old father told me you shouldn't be anywhere near him, so I'm taking this. Yeah, very good.
All right, on that note, thank you very much to my panel. Thank you to Verizon for sponsoring today's event and making this important conversation possible. Please plan to stick around for networking and additional conversations here. And as always, you can follow Punch Bowl News on all of our social media channels. Check out our website, punchbowl.news, and sign up for our free morning newsletter. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you.